When you play the Game of Thrones, you
Subscribe and like.
or you die. There is no middle ground.
Alright, hello YouTube, welcome back to the GreaseComs YouTube channel. Today's video, we are going to be doing everything you need to know about Rings of Power. What should you guys be expecting going into it, and all of that. But before we get into the video, if you guys like to like, subscribe, and comment, we'll be doing videos on the Rings of Power episodes and my overall thoughts on them. Also, if you are new to the channel, this is mainly a Song of Ice and Fire, Game of Thrones channel, so House of the Dragon content will also be covered on here as well. But let's get into the video and let's talk about it. So, mainly what Rings of Power is going to be talking about is the Second Age and a lot of what Sauron was doing in the Second Age. From that is kind of my understanding. Just going off of kind of the title of the show and the trailers, that's what I'm assuming the show is going to be on. I'm not sure what part we were going to pick up at the moment, right? So Sauron in the Second Age does a lot of things, right? He has a lot of wars with Numenor over thousands of years, something that we're going to see. A lot of events are going to be condensed into a certain amount of time. Because the way the Second Age goes is we have about 2 or 3 wars with Numenor, and then eventually Sauron kind of gives up. He's like, okay, can't really do this. I can't really beat Numenor by myself. So he kind of gets captured by Numenor, and he eventually, through guile and taking on a different persona, he convinces Numenor to do something else that ends up in Numenor's fall. Don't want to get in too far into it for spoilers for people that, really are interested in all that. But another thing we need to talk about alongside of those events, kind of talking about everything going on in the world at this point, is that the Silmarillion is where we get most of our information on the Second Age, and the Rings of Power TV show does not have the rights to those. So they have basically the appendices of the Lord of the Rings to get all of their information from. So for a lot of people that are going to be focusing on, are they sticking to the lore and the accuracies that Tolkien put down? I'm already going to tell you now, it's going to be pretty inaccurate. Just based upon the fact that we've seen in the trailer so far, there's a lot of things that aren't really canon, I guess. If we look at Harfoots, right, they're trying to tell us these aren't hobbits. The Harfoots are basically a branch of hobbits. So, again, I just wanted to talk about that a little early on in the video, that this is not going to be a show that strictly follows the Silmarillion or any of the like books giving us information on those. It's a very loose adaptation of stories within the Second Age. The Second Age, for the most part, was actually very peaceful. It wasn't like the Third Age, where there's a lot of war going on, a lot of corruption. The Second Age, for the most part, is a very prosperous era that kind of comes to a halt towards the end with the War of the Last Alliance. I'm assuming they're going to cover that as well towards the end of the show, but that's kind of the Second Age in a nutshell, is we have a lot of single events where there's a war here and there, and then 1,000 years of peace. That's kind of the idea, but they're going to try to condense it. So a lot of things like that are going to be present in this show. Now, another thing I think we need to look at is, if you have the expectations that this is going to be Lord of the Rings quality or something like that, it's not. I'm trying to go into this with an open mind, because this is basically going to be their own standalone story. It's going to be taking things like places, characters from Lord of the Rings or the Silmarillion or the Lord of the Rings appendices, and making a loose adaptation of those events. Is kind of how I'm going to say that these events are going to happen, how the show is going to work. I've seen the trailers, and for the most part, they haven't impressed me. They haven't done a great job of telling a story. I'm someone that knows a decent amount about the Second Age and about Lord of the Rings as a whole. And for the most part, if you were just to watch the trailers, you'd have no idea what's going on. So that is something that worries me about Rings of Power, is that we just don't have a lot going into it. I don't know how many people are really going to be drawn in to watch the show. It's not doing well on trailers. It's been getting heavy dislikes. So Rings of Power, to me, has a very low bar right now. Whereas I think a lot of people don't think the show is going to be good. I am someone that I don't think it's going to be good, but I'm going to try to give it an open chance of, take an open mind with the show and try to give it a chance, right? Because I don't want to go into it with just a negative opinion right off the bat, because then I'm going to hate it no matter what. right? Where I don't think this is going to be on the level of House of the Dragon, which has been so far, a very good adaptation of Fire and Blood and George R. R. Martin's works. This doesn't seem it's going to be the same type of thing, right? It seems like it's going to be its kind of own type thing that's not really related to the Tolkien works whatsoever, even though they are advertising it as such. It's not really going to be that kind of idea. A lot of questions that I have in this show are going to be, how do they handle these events? Because again, how the Silmarillion goes is it's almost kind of like a history type thing where there are not a lot of developed characters for the most part. Like, I'm interested to see how they do that with established characters. Certain things I don't like is a lot of their portrayals of characters that are pre-established. So characters like Galadriel, Elrond, they really don't seem like they're doing those characters justice, which I think is very disappointing. They are creating a lot of their own characters. Again, and I think a negative drawback that I think a lot of people need to know going into the show is there are, from what I can tell from the trailers, the way that they're framing the show, the way they're going about advertising, this is going to be a very political show, on the fact that there are going to be a lot of political motivations in the show. So I'm not pleased with that, and there's a lot of things that I do not like the direction that they're taking Rings of Power. But it's something that I think needs to be mentioned. For you guys, if you're wanting to know what this show is about, I think those are things that you need to know going into it. But that is kind of my quick introduction into Rings of Power. And we're going to be doing a stream probably right after the episode comes out on, I believe, Friday. So if you guys, want to talk to me about the episode and give your opinions, and we'll probably do all that. It'll probably be live directly after the show has come out. It's probably about an hour after. So yeah, well, thank you guys all for watching the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye, guys.
If you think this has a happy ending, you haven't been paying attention.